Good day! Since you already have known what creative writing is in the previous module, it is time for you to explore the human senses as a major step in bringing out the creative writer inside you. Stimulating the five basic human senses is essential to establish the connection between imaginative realms and the mind of the reader. Since writing about something that is important to you, centering on your experience is a good starting point of writing. This lesson is about writing through sensory experience. So at the end of this lesson, you are expected to first activate human senses in formulating creative ideas. Next, use specific experiences in writing creatively. And finally, appreciate the essence of activating the human senses in expressing creative ideas. Experiences may either leave us with memories to treasure or scrap nightmares we are struggling to forget. But no matter how good or bad they may seem, they are still a part of us that make up our being. They shape us to become the person that we are today. In recalling experiences, both good and bad, our senses play a big role. They give life to an abstract event as we share them to others. Activating them reduces our shame and reluctance. They allow the concealed aspect of our being to freely express and relate to others, like a therapy that heals our wounds or an energizer that keeps us more alive. Let us tickle your senses through this activity. You recall any of the following scenarios: your first day of school as a freshman, a terrible day with your dentist, your first menstrual period for girls, and being circumcised for boys, or an emotional day with your best friend, or a joyful Christmas Eve. You choose one scenario and you try to recall the experiences you had. Go. Then, you answer the following questions mentally. How old were you then? Who were with you on that day? What feeling was dominant on that day? Can you vividly recall that moment? What made that day special or horrible? This lesson teaches you writing through sensory experience. Let us begin by defining what sensory language is. So technically, it is the language that connects to the five main senses. As what we could see here in this picture, our sense of sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell all connect to our brain. This means that as we think and write, we have to integrate our basic human senses. Let us dig deeper into the role of sensory experience in creative writing. So in the bigger picture in literature, it is defined as the literary device that makes use of imagery to enliven the five basic human senses. Now, let us see how sensory language works in poetry. So we have a short poem here. The title is Together at Last by John Oliver M. Ramos. I saw you walk towards me. Your footsteps fell heavy on hardwood floor. Your perfume reached me before you did. We got caught in a tight embrace. We kissed. I tasted love. Let us dissect the poem by line. The first line says, I saw you walk towards me. The use of the word saw directly connects to the sense of sight, in which one can imagine seeing someone walking towards the persona. And the second line, your footsteps fell heavy on hardwood floor. This line describes how the person walked footsteps toward the persona, and the use of the words fell heavy indicate how the footsteps can be distinctly heard against the floor. The third line, your perfume reached me before you did. This one appeals to the sense of smell, which makes one imagine the scent of this person's perfume. And the fourth line, we got caught in a tight embrace. The use of the word tight aids in imagining the warmth of the person's embrace. And the fifth line, we kissed. I tasted love. Rather than stating an actual taste, the phrase tasted love gives an implied feeling of being able to taste love, which is often described as sweet. So these pictures here might justify the images projected in your mind while you were reading the poem. And now, let us see how sensory language works in prose. I want to begin by showing you this picture. I want you to formulate a descriptive statement about this. Here's a statement that exemplifies a description of the previous picture. So it goes, Ibarra looked at her with utmost longing. She, in return, flushed. That statement is actually grammatically correct, but we can improve the statement by integrating sensory details. And here's the improved sentence with sensory details. Ibarra gazed at her, reminiscing their intimate moments. She, blushing and red-faced, strayed her sight in discomfiture. To explain that process, to look is fine, but to gaze has a different feel. Because to gaze is to fix one's eye in a steady look, often with eagerness and studious attention. Next, longing can be replenished by exposing the thought in his head. So the man is actually reminiscing their intimate moments together. And additionally, describing the reaction of the lady in a more vivid way is supplemented by mentioning her action and her emotion. And a better way of saying it is, she strayed her sight in discomfiture. Understanding this lesson would lead you to answering this question. What is the essence of activating the human senses in bringing out the creative writer in you? And this will lead you to the understanding that as a writer, you need to make your readers feel engaged to the world that you are creating for them. You help them imagine what you are trying to say. You have to show, do not just tell. Integrating sensory language in writing is actually painting pictures using words. You have to be as creative as you can be in describing people, places, and events in the piece that you are crafting. And to end this discussion, let me borrow this idea from Sigmund Freud. Words have a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or deepest despair. They can transfer knowledge from teacher to students. And words enable the orator to sway his audience and dictate its decisions. Words are capable of arousing the strongest emotions and prompting all men's actions.